So, did you hear the rumor that Wonder Woman got paid less than Superman?
What? Inequality! Equal pay for equal work.
Yeah, so apparently there was this rumor going around that Gal Gadot made $300,000 and Henry Cavill made $14 million for Man of Steel.
Yeah, he made $14 million for Man of Steel, and Gal Gadot made $300,000 for Wonder Woman. That was the initial setup of inequality. Although, before we get into anything else, I would like to point out actors, especially big name actors in Hollywood, don't get paid a set amount for a set amount of work. This whole notion that equal pay for equal work applies to actors in Hollywood doesn't hold up at all. You're not working in a crew who get paid nothing. You're not working in a union. You're not being paid by, it's every big name Hollywood actor is paid a dramatically different amount of money for dramatically different projects. It's not like Robert Downey Jr. makes exactly the same amount of money in every movie, or that he only makes more and more money in every movie. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with contract negotiations and a lot of other stuff. But that being said, it's not really as sexist as people want to say it is. Now, granted,
especially not lately, in light of Scarlett Johansson being the most paid actor last year. Plus, I'm pretty sure she was making more money than Chris Evans for the Avengers movies when she clearly was a smaller character. But then also Passengers, not only was Jennifer Lawrence paid significantly more than Chris Pratt, her upfront salary was half of the production budget for the movie, was just going to pay her to be in the movie. And then she was supposed to be making more money once it got a profit.
There were also two cases last year. One was Robin Wright, and the other one was the woman off of...
House of Cards?
No, not House of Cards.
Oh,
that's Robin Wright.
Too. Oh, shit. Sorry, I don't watch House of Cards. I didn't know.
Yeah, Robin Wright, who was also in Wonder Woman. It was the woman off of Shameless who argued for the equal pay, and everybody was like, okay, cool, and William H. Macy was totally cool with it. Same thing goes with Kevin Spacey, at least that's what they argued. And given that their roles are pretty much comparable to each other, it makes sense.
Right.
Granted, in both of these shows, the guy is playing more of a character than the woman is, but the demand is pretty much equal as far as, like, how much they're on screen, et cetera, et cetera.
How much work they have to do for the project, how much they need to be contractually obligated to the project at the expense of other things that they could do instead, the way that they have to also promote the project. Exactly, you're right.
Yeah, so their quest to have equal pay is actually a noble one, and for that one, it's understandable. However, that being said, Hollywood actors are, like you said, paid significantly more than pretty much everybody else. That includes the director in many cases.
Yeah, because if a director leaves the project can still survive. Once you start filming, once anyone in the cast leaves, but especially the star, you are so fucked, and you're losing a lot more money than the additional money you're paying them to be attached to the
part
project.
Of the reason why actors make so much money is because they literally can hold a film hostage. So apparently this whole spiel about Gal Gadot making less than Henry Cavill for the same work, so they say, is complete bullshit. So The Hollywood Reporter just put out an article today called Gal Gadot got paid the same as Henry Cavill in their superhero standalone debuts. Slow your roll, Twitter outrage. Contrary to a story that Wonder Woman's Gal Gadot made millions less than her DC counterpart Henry Cavill as Superman, the two were paid the same for their debut standalone outings. That's according to a source familiar with both negotiations who told The Hollywood Reporter that Gal Gadot made the same amount upfront, if not slightly more, on Wonder Woman than Cavill made in 2013's Man of Steel.
Which, to be fair, it also kind of makes sense for her to have made slightly more for Wonder Woman, because at this point, she's already been in one of the movies, and they've already filmed another movie that she's in. Whereas with Man of Steel, that was the first one. If they really lost Henry Cavill, it wouldn't have actually been the end of the world. Whereas if they lost Gal Gadot for Wonder Woman...
The alleged salary discrepancy was based on a post from Elle magazine, who cobbled together salary information that had previously appeared in various publications and did not differentiate between upfront salary versus bonuses and performance escalators.
Yeah, according to their article, they said Gal Gadot earned $300,000 for Wonder Woman. Henry Cavill got a little more for Man of Steel. They put an update at the beginning because obviously they got called out for this shit. They said reports that Henry Cavill earned $14 million for Man of Steel are unconfirmed. Although the pay gap persists in Hollywood, this example is not adequately supported by the information available. But what they were attempting to say was Gal Gadot reportedly earned $300,000 for Wonder Woman, while Henry Cavill earned $14 million for Man of Steel. Aside from movie stars, there are regular people who make more than Gadot did for Wonder Woman. Your average anesthesiologist makes more than that a year, which we'll get into exactly why that's bullshit. But while this huge difference certainly reflects the gender pay gap, even for superheroes, it's not totally without precedence. According to Variety, Gadot signed a contract that gave her $300,000 for each DC movie she does, and she will likely make a lot more from bonuses. Exactly. Cavill's Man of Steel earnings do include such bonuses. As CBR points out, Chris Evans earned the same as Gadot for Captain America: The First Avengers, which totally makes sense.
Yeah, because they're practically the same movie, just a different war and a little bit of Thor thrown in for good measure.
Right, but also Captain America came out kind of at a similar point in the MCU as Wonder Woman is coming out in the DCU, where there are already a bunch of movies in the works. They're already trying to hold down multiple big name actors. They're already trying to deal with the production cost versus the profitability. That makes sense too.
And I bet due to the success of Wonder Woman, she's going to be paid a lot more. And there are some rumors going on that Gal Gadot is going to do a lot of reshoots this summer so that her character is more prominent in the Justice League movie,
right,
which might even get delayed because of this.
Right. And here's where the article becomes really bullshit. They say, but there's something a little absurd about Cavill getting $14 million for by basically any standard, worse film. They bring up the Man of Steel grossed $290 million domestically, while Wonder Woman is up to $274 million and was made for a far lower budget. They don't know these things when they negotiate the contract. It's not like they negotiated Henry Cavill's contract knowing that it was going to make a certain amount of money, and negotiated Gal Gadot's contract knowing that all three of her films were going to make a certain amount of money.
Right.
Bringing that up at all is ridiculous. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And for a while, the box office projections for Wonder Woman were about $60 million. So this was a big surprise to them.
Exactly. So this whole thing of like, oh, but look at how much each movie made. You can't retroactively apply somebody's base salary to how profitable the movie was. That's ridiculous.
Also, I'm sure Gal Gadot is getting residuals from the movie, and that's where she's probably getting the bulk of her money.
Of course, for sure. But like Hollywood Reporter said, yeah, they didn't specify anything about where that information came from. They didn't specify anything about specifically what the contract is basing these numbers on, except for the fact that it was $300 million for each movie, and that there may be bonuses, but they didn't get into what. Plus, dude, that was a piece of shit article. Let's not even front for a minute.
Also, I do want to add that Chris Hemsworth made $150,000 for the first Thor movie.
Yeah, so Gal Gadot already made twice as much as him for 3 movies. That's ridiculous. This whole thing of like, look, oh no, poor Gal Gadot being discriminated because of her gender. No, that's not the way the industry works. Plenty of major headlining male actors in Hollywood movies, Hollywood superhero movies, are making less money than Gal Gadot. That's bullshit. It has nothing to do with gender. Just because certain men are making a few $100,000 more than her, oh, boo-hoo. She's not making enough hundreds of thousands of dollars. No.
Warner Brothers, the studio behind both movies, declined to comment, which of course they did.
Yeah, of course.
A salary of low to mid six figures is standard fare for Hollywood tentpoles, especially for actors with short track records. Gadot had bit parts in movies such as Date Night, Night and Day, before landing more substantial but still supporting roles in the Fast and the Furious movies.
Which, by the way, she was doing next to nothing, especially compared to her female counterparts. A tradition she's keeping alive and well.
Chris Hemsworth made $150,000 for his starring debut in 2011's Thor, for example. Adam Driver was paid $500,000 for his part in Star Wars The Force Awakens, according to sources. Felicity Jones, who had an Oscar nomination under her belt before landing a lead in Rogue One, was paid more than $1 million for the Star Wars standalone.
So, again, you have a female being paid significantly more than a male.
Well, yeah, and especially when you have Oscar nomination next to your name, you're going to garner in a little bit more money because people want you.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I'm not at all trying to say that the gender pay gap is in the opposite direction, that like women inherently are making more than their male counterparts. That's ridiculous.
Oh, no, that's...
I'm just trying to say that the payment for different actors for different projects is on a dramatically different scale. It's not just, look at all the poor women on the bottom end of the scale and all of the men at the top end of the scale.
I mean, part of it goes into the type of movies that are being made, and that's changing now. You're getting more films with prominent female leads, which means that women are going to start making more money for movies because there's a higher demand for them.
Right, but it is kind of interesting that Felicity Jones was offered twice as much as Adam Driver, and the reason why I say that is specifically because they're trying to lock down Adam Driver for multiple movies, whereas Felicity Jones is being locked down for exactly one movie. But, I mean, this doesn't get into, maybe it's $500,000 for 3 movies. We don't know. The article doesn't go into enough detail.
Well, that probably changes because he might have some deal that he gets residuals on the toys and all that kind of stuff, which, I mean, if I were as prominent as a character as Kylo Ren, and they said, oh, you can make this amount but not make a percentage on the toys, or you could do the same thing with Mark Hamill. He took a really small paycheck, and then he, still continues to make residuals off of his image being used in various projects because that's how he set it up. He actually has a hand in the profits that the Star Wars toys make. That's why Mark Hamill doesn't act all the time outside of that. Right,
but here's the funny thing. I would agree that that's pretty smart because that's worked for a lot of other people in Star Wars, like George Lucas and Mark Hamill. But it would be really funny if they did that to Adam Driver specifically because, first of all, Kylo Ren toys don't usually use Adam Driver's image specifically. They usually use the mask. But also there was the whole debacle over the surplus of Kylo Ren toys and the lack of Rey toys because the toy companies were thinking that there was going to be a much higher demand for Kylo Ren toys as opposed to Rey toys. And then it turned out that people just weren't buying Kylo Ren toys, period. Mostly because he's a whiny-ass little bitch so far.
Yeah, if he was more of a Darth Vader type character, it would make sense because, let's face it, Darth Vader sells way more toys than Luke Skywalker ever did.
To be fair, if this movie was made maybe about 10 years ago, I think Kylo Ren would probably sell a lot more toys. But also, exactly, look at how profitable Darth Vader is and then look at the image of Kylo Ren. They're very similar. It's not a bad idea to think that that's where more toys are going to go, especially since it's a distinctive non-humanoid design, and those tend to sell a lot better with toys. Like when you look at BB-8, C-3PO, R2-D2, those tend to sell a lot better, I think. Don't quote me on this, but I think that those tend to sell a lot better than even the Mark Hamill toys.
Yeah, right now I think probably the BB-8 toys sell the most.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they do. And especially R2-D2 will never stop selling. Probably the most. I'm not basing that off of any figures. Again, don't quote me on that. But based off of just my lived experience of seeing people with Star Wars merch, I mostly see Millennium Falcon, TIE Fighters, and R2-D2. That's most of what I see.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I grew up kind of in a different age where, like, a lot of the toys were Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, and Boba Fett.
Oh, that's true. There's definitely a lot of Stormtrooper stuff, for sure. But, like, part of the reason why that makes a lot of sense is because you can make a lot more stuff with them. You know, you can make jewelry baubles, you can make plushies, you can make backpacks. You can't make a backpack that looks like Rey's head. I mean, you could, but it really doesn't work the same as, like, a Stormtrooper face. You know, so in that respect, I kind of get what they were going for with that mindset, but clearly that backfired. So if Adam Driver based his contract off of the selling of his toys, that was not going to work out for him too well.
No. But going off of that, I gotta say, like, this kind of stuff just, it's like, oh, actors didn't make this amount of millions and this amount of thousands, and I'm just like...
You're not hurting.
Exactly.
You're doing fine. You're doing better than fine. You're doing better than literally most of the world. You're fine.
But I do want to bring this up because I brought it up a little bit earlier, but the crew and people who work on these films oftentimes don't even make a living wage. Mm-hmm. So spare me when actors start crying about not making... Well, this isn't really actors crying. This is the fucking
public,
internet.
Yeah. But the other thing, too, about crew is, like we were saying, almost everyone except for the actors are replaceable. But that especially goes for the crew. They can go like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I'm sorry, people in crew are putting in way more time and effort than the actors are.
Yeah, they have to come...
They do that specifically to help the actors have less time on set. You know, they have to put together all the pre-production work. They have to make all the costumes. They have to build all the sets. But one thing a lot of people don't think about is especially animators. You know, it's not just animated films. Movies, especially like Wonder Woman, that are super CGI heavy. These people are doing this work on set even, but they're doing it round the clock with very little breaks. A lot of times they don't get full benefits. A lot of times they're treated very unfairly. They can't take sick time. They don't have insurance. They don't get holidays off. They work 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day even. You know, it's grueling work. And to be like, oh, but Gal Gadot didn't make enough hundreds of thousands of dollars. Dude, that's fucking bullshit. No.
Well, I can't say
poor little rich girl. I'm sorry.
I can't say who it is or what they worked on, but I worked with somebody who worked on special effects for big budget movies. Mm-hmm. Like, and he was struggling, and I paid him to work on a film of mine, and I was kind of shocked with his resume, but the more I learned about it, it was like, seriously? So you're having...
Well, when you say a big budget movie, like, don't tell me the exact movie that it was, but, like, what's something comparable to it? Like, clearly this wasn't like
Star Wars.
Okay, so it was like a Star Wars style film.
Yeah, it was Star Wars level. Like, I saw his filmography.
God damn.
Yeah.
Seriously? And
yeah.
And he needed you to pay him money to work on your little indie project because he wasn't making enough doing that? God damn.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to get on his ass.
And
it's
he
just
was
like,
he was
Jesus.
working. He was working. Now, granted, I was an independent project. I couldn't pay a lot, and he was understandable and stuff. But like, still, it's like, what? Like
you should be able to turn down literally everything because you have this other job. Yeah,
exactly. But you know, animator. There's a documentary. I forget what it's called, but I definitely have to see it. It's about like 25 minutes. I think one of our professors has put it up a couple times, but it's about the VFX people that get screwed over.
Mm-hmm. Because it's true. By the way, I'm not trying to say this to rag on this guy. It's just shocking that he's not being treated better. That's totally not his fault. I'm not trying to say, like, oh, he should be made... No. I mean, he should be, but I'm saying that's not his fault, obviously.
It's really messed up because studios, they care about their actors. They don't really care about much else. Mm-hmm. And when you have directors, and sometimes even the actors will step in to help out these people.
Oh, yeah, like, okay, I don't know a lot about Johnny Depp's personal life. I'm just going to say that out front. But I do know from somebody who worked on Public Enemies, he was holding the film hostage to get the crew to be paid and fed and sheltered from bad weather.
Yeah.
That's insane. He was literally like, dude, you guys... He saw that the way that the main crew was being treated, you know, like the gophers, the PAs, that kind of stuff, they were becoming sick with cold, flus, hypothermia because of weather-related conditions. They weren't being fed right. They were working ridiculous grueling hours. They weren't getting their 12-hour, the 12-hour rule. Okay, to be fair, the story was told to me a long time ago. Maybe not all those details are right. I don't want to say something that's not right. But the point is that these were unacceptable conditions. And Johnny Depp was like, okay, you guys, well, if you're not going to fix this, I'm going to leave. And he apparently went to France. I was like, I'll come back when you guys fix that shit.
Yeah, there have been other actors that have done similar things. And quite frankly, we need actors like that. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to film projects like this, they have the most power. Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones shown on screen. It's really messed up. I wish there wasn't this bullshit bureaucracy and all this kind of stuff, but it's just kind of how it works.
But yeah, when you see situations, like I said, with Passengers, where one actress is getting the most of the production money, that significantly cuts down on how much the director makes, how much the producer makes, how much the editors make, how much the VFX artists make, how much craft makes, how much craft is even able to be served, how much public transportation is able to be taken care of, how much, I think Passengers wasn't really shot on location, so I don't think that's a big deal. But then how much PAs can make, how much lighting can make, how much sound can make, how much there's so many people who make a movie. I think that the general idea of most Hollywood movies is that it's 150,000 people and you have one person consuming most of the budget over all of their needs. And then all of the needs of the film besides just the people. That's insanity.
Yeah. These salary figures do not take into account box office bonuses, which hit when several certain benchmarks are hit. And actors get substantial increases when it comes to sequels, even in spite of having option agreements, and especially if a movie is as successful as Wonder Woman, the film has earned $574 million worldwide to date. Gadot's deal will likely be renegotiated.
And then after this article came out, apparently they were renegotiating, right after this.
There was one person who cashed in on the Superman phenomena. THR previously reported that the producer, John Peters, took home $80 million to $85 combined for 2006 Superman Returns and Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, thanks to back-end granted for his role in jump-starting the franchise in the 90s. Man of Steel earned $668 million worldwide.
That's weird, though, that this article doesn't go into exactly how Henry Cavill made that much money.
Right.
What do they mean that they were made the same amount? Because this article doesn't... Yeah, it definitely doesn't say... It says Gadot got paid the same as Henry Cavill, but it doesn't go into Henry Cavill's deal at all. What the fuck are they talking about? They talk about Chris Hemsworth, Adam Driver, but they don't talk about Henry Cavill at all. What the fuck? Hang tight. I'm going to look this up.
Well, it was mostly talking about that source saying that was ridiculous, but they didn't actually say how much Cavill made.
Yeah, so that just... Oh, here we go. Man of Steel salary. Let's look this up. Okay, so Vox apparently says that this entire thing is based off of a tweet by Lauren Dunca, a columnist at Teen Vogue. Oh, that makes sense. Tweeted the following now deleted sentiment. Gal Gadot made $300,000 for Wonder Woman as compared to Henry Cavill's $14 million in Man of Steel. The most compelling DC villain is the pay gap. There's only one problem. The scenario in Dunca's original tweet wasn't true. Gal Gadot was probably paid $300,000 for Wonder Woman. Cavill was probably not paid for $14 million for Man of Steel.
Yeah, especially since he wasn't a big name back then.
Right, exactly. For Cavill's salary, the LP cited Forbes, which had in turn cited a website called The Richest, one of the internet's many websites to tell you a celebrity's net worth. The Richest speculated that Cavill's net worth is $8 million, though that asset appears to be based on only two pieces of earnings and financial data, both from 2013. Those two pieces of data are a $14 million salary and a box office gross bonus from Man of Steel, and a 23,900 Omega DeVille Hour Vision wristwatch. The site does not list any other earnings or assets whatsoever from before Cavill worked on Man of Steel or since. After people pointed out to Duncan that the $14 million figure had come from a questionable source, she tweeted and also deleted a clarification while still making the point that Gadot's salary is tiny compared to the world box office gross that Wonder Woman will haul in. Which, again, nobody predicted. You can kind of guess those things, but, like, nobody predicted that Batman v Superman was going to have a 75% income drop-off its opening weekend. Nobody predicted that Wonder Woman was going to make that much money, considering the fact that the DCU movies have been making smaller and smaller returns for every film. Yeah. And also especially opening weekend box office, including Wonder Woman.
And regardless of what you think of the Wonder Woman movie, it wasn't exactly daring in its storytelling.
Yeah. Vulture reported that Cavill made a 6-figure paycheck comparable to Gadot's for Man of Steel, and that his co-star Amy Adams pulled in 7 figures to play his Lois Lane. Okay, there we go. We have a source who is claiming this is exactly how it worked. There we go. That's what I needed to hear. And of course it goes into Gadot was paid similarly to Chris Evans. Vulture came out with an article, why Gal Gadot was paid only $300,000 for Wonder Woman.
I do think that's funny that they're saying why they were only paid this. You know, first of all, Gal Gadot isn't like a known actor at the time.
Right. I mean, people were like, oh, but she was in Fast and Furious. And it's like, she was a tiny
side character.
She was a tiny side character in an ensemble cast. That's not saying a whole hell of a lot. But I'm trying to get to the part where this blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this says that pretty staggering disparity has left many people on Twitter gobsmacked, but in truth, Gal Gadot's $300,000 paycheck is perfectly in line with the amount of money paid to most actors at the beginning of their superhero careers. As Daily Dot's Gavina Baker Whitelaw noted, it's the same amount that Chris Evans made for the first Captain America film, and more so than some of his fellow Avengers made in their first team-up. Gal Gadot was best known for a curtailed supporting roles in Fast and Furious when she signed for a Wonder Woman deal, and without much name value at the time, she likely had little leverage to demand a bigger payday. She also signed a 3-picture deal that would pay her the same amount for Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Wonder Woman, and the upcoming Justice League. And I would like to point out that Gal Gadot made $300,000 for being in Batman vs Superman, and she was barely in the fucking thing. And even when Wonder Woman was on screen, that wasn't always Gal Gadot.
Yeah, that's one of the crazy things, like, her stunt double should be next to her practically everywhere.
Dude, her stunt double should be making at least as much as she does.
Yeah, exactly.
Her stunt double should have her name on the poster.
She's the one doing all the work?
Mm-hmm, she's doing all the actual work.
And it's not like Gal Gadot is that great of an actress.
No.
She's about on par with Henry Cavill, but a little bit worse.
I really don't like Henry. I've heard that Henry Cavill is really good in other things, but I've only seen him as Superman.
Well, I will say it is kind of funny because like his acting was far better in Man of Steel than it was in Batman v Superman. It almost felt like he lost his ability to act in that second movie.
Well, to be fair, and I point this out for everybody really, because a lot of people give the villain shit. I'm gonna stand up for Henry Cavill on this. What else can you do with that kind of a script? What else can you do with that kind of direction? Of course, like, I don't think even the best actors could have really done... Michael Shannon didn't even do that good of a job, and he's amazing.
I think the biggest problem with these movies is they're rushing the script, and, like, literally that's seems to be the thing that you need to spend the most time on.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not the fact that, like, oh, you don't have the right special effects, you don't have the right acting. Like, I can say all this stuff about Wonder Woman that I don't like, the action, all this stuff, but, like, really the biggest problem is just the base script. It sucks. Yeah, you might like certain moments of the film, and, you know, for some people, you know, a few good moments equals a good movie. I get it. Other people really like the movie. The script stinks.
Mm-hmm. But getting back to this, when it comes to franchise roles of this caliber, the studio will often demand a signature on the dotted line before the actors even audition. This test deal ensures that the performer who is eventually offered the role can't ask for more money after being deemed the top choice, and it usually comes with sequel options already set out in advance, which makes a lot of sense, and that's why a lot of actors get a significant pay increase with the creation of sequels. Most budding Marvel actors sign test deals, and I've heard that young contestants for Star Wars films do too. Occasionally, big-name actor can cut through that bureaucratic red tape and make off with a bundle. When he made the first Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. didn't sign the same kind of Marvel deal that later Avengers would have to mull, and he's been aptly rewarded every time he goes back to the negotiation table. To lure Ben Affleck to play Batman in the DC universe, Warner Brothers forked over far more than it paid Gadot, but Affleck had a long relationship with the studio. He had directed an Oscar-winning movie, and the studio was incentivized to offer him a big paycheck, hoping to keep him in the fold for years to come. And again, it's not like Ben Affleck's making more than Gal Gadot. Ben Affleck is making more than everyone else.
Well, also, when you're an actor that wants to walk off of a project, they're going to toss a bunch of money at you.
But what I'm saying is, like, this same thing happened with Marvel, where people were like, Scarlett Johansson makes so much less than Robert Downey Jr. And it's like, okay, first of all, she's on screen less than him. She's in fewer movies than him, but also she's making significantly more than her male counterparts who have more screen time than her and who have more movies than her. So don't compare Scarlett Johansson and Robbie Downey Jr. like she's at the bottom and he's at the top. You know, no one's complaining that, oh, Jeremy Renner is making so much less money than Robert Downey Jr. because he's a blonde younger man. Like, that's ridiculous. No, it's because he's not Robert Downey Jr.
Some of these people would probably argue that, oh, Gwyneth Paltrow isn't making as much as Iron Man. And I'm just like, yeah, they were in the same fucking movie, but like, I mean, except for the exception of Iron Man 3, where she actually does something, she actually gets into the Iron Man suit and saves the day and shit like that. She hasn't really done much in those movies.
Dude, from my recollection, she couldn't even be bothered to keep her hair color a consistent color. So no, she doesn't deserve to be paid as much. Sorry. Let me nip another part of this controversy in the bud, though. Contrary to reports, Gadot's Batman v Superman co-star Henry Cavill didn't make anywhere near $14 million to play Superman in Man of Steel, an eye-popping figure that makes Gadot's paycheck seem paltry in comparison. That number has popped up a lot in the past 24 hours, but it's thinly sourced, and we already went through that. Were it true, it would be evidence of a sexist double standard, but a source tells me that the relatively unknown Cavill made a six-figure paycheck comparable to Gadot's Man of Steel, and his co-star Amy Adams, who was a much bigger name at the time, pulled in seven figures to play as Lois Lane. Fret not for Gadot, though, however, after she finishes her extensive reshoots for Justice League, her contractual obligations will be met, and Warner Brothers will most likely fork over big bucks to sign Gadot for Wonder Woman 2 and beyond. What I have to say is, if she gets a pay raise, she's got to start putting in at least as much work as literally every single other woman around her in her movie.
Also, I'm going to sound sexist saying this, but maybe she needs to not get pregnant for her next fucking movie.
Oh, dude, you cannot make that a contractual obligation. You can't do that.
No, I completely understand that. I'm saying she should.
Okay, I don't know anything about the situation involving her pregnancy. I don't know if she wanted a kid or if it was an accident or whatever.
I don't know. It seems like every time these fucking movies come on, she's like, "Oh, I got pregnant again," and then it's like, okay, first of all,
what are you talking about? Well, she only had one kid, and then she got pregnant with a second kid.
But the reason why I bring this up is because, okay, she wants to have kids. That's fine. She wants to be pregnant while filming. That's fine. Guess what? There were other actresses that were pregnant and filmed and did much more impressive action scenes. Exactly. You had Penelope Cruz in, granted, it wasn't a good movie, but Dead Man Tell No Tales. And then you had Scarlett Johansson in the second Avengers movie actually doing pretty impressive stunt work while pregnant.
Much more impressive than anything Gal Gadot was doing.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. But also, okay, first of all, Gal Gadot, to her credit and her detriment, didn't get pregnant until after they finished principal shooting for Wonder Woman. She was 5 months pregnant during the reshoots. Okay. Very big difference. But second of all, from what you just said, her pregnancy is not the problem. The problem is that she's fucking lame. The problem is that
I'm just saying that could be an excuse not to bulk up during certain periods of time.
No,
but
the problem is that she's a fucking supermodel. That's the problem. She acts like a supermodel, she looks like a supermodel, and she doesn't want to do the work to get the part. And here's what I'm gonna say. Literally look at the video, not even of other women in cinema. I'm not even gonna say that. I'm not even gonna hold her to the same standards as women in other movies. Watch her training video first, and then watch the training videos of all of the stunt doubles and all of the other actresses.
Yeah,
and
just the actresses.
Tell me that, of everyone else in the same movie as her. Or even just watch a clip of little tiny baby Diana doing her fight with Robin Wright,
also,
and seriously tell me that Gal Gadot deserves that much more money than
also
every other
in the
woman
context
in the movie.
of the movie, they said they're going to train her harder than any other Amazon in Themyscira. That is part of the plot line.
Yep.
So why is she the slinkiest one? Yeah, you could argue, she's a god. She's a goddess. Guess what? Fucking Thor's a god.
And he had to bulk up.
Yeah,
Henry
Superman's
Cavill
an alien. Superman doesn't have to be bulk, but guess what? He bulked up because that's part of the character. Part of the character of Wonder Woman is that she's bulk. There's a meme online that says, I'd rather look like Wonder Woman than Barbie. And right now, I wouldn't be surprised if there is actually a Barbie movie starring Gal Gadot, because quite frankly, she fits Barbie more than she does Wonder Woman.
But we can bitch and moan about her body type day and night. I don't even think that that's the main problem. The main problem is that she can't do the work. I've heard people argue that, like, she can't bulk up because then she won't be able to do a lot of the stunts or whatever. The problem is that she's not even doing the stunts. She's not even capable of doing anything anyone else is able to do. When you look at her training video, first of all, the fact that she can lift her own body weight is not that impressive considering how fucking tiny she is.
Mm-hmm.
When I weighed the same amount she did, I could do stuff like that easy. It's not that fucking difficult. But more importantly, this is what I'm going to say. When you look at the footage of her in choreography, doing the sword fighting scene, and you see the progression, most importantly, this is what I'm going to say, this is the best footage of her doing actual stunt choreography herself. You know for a fact that by the end of the video, that's not like her first time doing it, and she's still picking up the material. You can tell by the end of that video, this is her when she has it down. She can't do it. The choreography is lame, it's slow, it's very non-extensive, it doesn't require a lot of thought, and I was literally doing more intricate choreography on tempo live when I was 11 years old doing an amateur performance of Three Musketeers.
Also,
this is pathetic.
Look at these videos and, like, see if she doesn't crack a smile during everything. It's she can't even... I get, like, sometimes you're having fun and all that kind of stuff, but, like, there comes a certain point in time where, like, if you're really working, you're not going to be able to crack that kind of smile because you're going to be exerting yourself.
I see what you mean, because it was about to be like, dude, don't bitch on her for smiling, but you're right, once you're actually working and you're in the zone and you're tense and you've been doing this for, as she claims that she did, several hours a day every day, yeah, you're not really going to be laughing and skipping and throwing flowers.
The only parts that I have seen her without her beautiful smile, yes, she is a beautiful person, but, like, the only times that I haven't seen her without that smile is her holding up weights that are both 10 pounds. So essentially she is lifting 20-pound weights.
But only 10 on each. I'm doing that right now. Trying to get back into shape. I'm not doing that and headlining as a superhero in an international film sensation.
And it's one of those things that, like, it's like I can understand not doing the same weights as the guys because, let's face it, sometimes men working out is pretty freaking insane.
Well, also, let's not ignore the sexist standard that a lot of really dumb men have of, no, don't bulk her up because then she won't be as sexy.
Yeah,
I don't think that's most people or anything.
No,
but that's probably a lot of producers. That's probably a lot of producers.
But there are a whole bunch of guys that are like, oh, I don't want Wonder Woman to look like a roided up chick. That would just turn me off. And it's like, first of all, like, Wonder Woman
is not your sexual plaything. She is in the movie. Obviously, she is in the movie. But in the comics, as a character, as, like, part of who she is as a person, she is not your sexual plaything to ogle and fap to. That's not why she exists. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman clearly does, obviously. Yes, that was literally what was written into her character for the movie. But yeah, there are very few times when I look at actors, period, and I'm like, I could do that better than them, but it's really pathetic when I'm looking at Wonder Woman going, I've literally done better than that.
Yeah.
I've literally done better than that, and I'm no one. That's bullshit. I'm not good.
I've done better than that before I was in the military.
Yeah, but you're a dude. I'm saying that me as a woman who is not trying to work out, who is not an actress, who is not trying to be in a superhero movie, who wasn't in the Navy, who never had military training, who wasn't part of the Israeli army.
I've seen her one Israeli army picture.
And it seriously looks like a senior day photo shoot.
And then they said that she was a supermodel while in the Israeli army.
I'm sure she was.
And I'm just like, so what kind of standards do you have? Oh, it's mandatory. That makes perfect sense.
Well, not only that, but that does lead into the whole other reason why it's extraordinarily problematic to hire Gal Gadot to be Wonder Woman. First of all, she can't do the work. Second of all, she doesn't look the part. Third of all, she's not a good actress. Fourth of all, she doesn't stand for the principles of Wonder Woman. She doesn't stand for peace, and she doesn't stand against racial intolerance. And I was trying really hard not to put words in her mouth because, like we said, being part of the Israeli military is mandatory. Not every person who's in the American military, fucking hates Muslims or whatever. I'm not going to put words in her mouth. But when she says of her own free will on social media about how, we will overcome the obstacles of the Hamas and people of Palestine.
It might have been... It's one of those things where you're not a big enough actress to say shit like that.
To be fair, she said this 3 years ago.
Well, definitely not.
But she said it on social media. A lot of people who aren't anybody say shit like that all the time.
I'm sure I'm gonna get scrutinized if I become anybody at any time. For some of the shit I've said. But
exactly. Anyone says anything even slightly political, you're fucked.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it means or where you said it. You're totally fucked. It doesn't matter.
But they didn't show the movie in Lebanon.
Which I don't think hurt their box office too bad or anything,
No.
Let's be honest.
I made a joke that the people in Lebanon got an all-male screening, except it was them just staring at a blank wall.
Yeah. Anyway, the paycheck thing is bullshit. This particular case of gender pay gap is totally fucking bullshit. Also, maybe don't get your panties in a bunch that really famous rich celebrities are making enough money.
Yeah, really rich celebrities, even if they're not making $1 million for a movie, they have way more money than you probably could ever see in your lifetime.
Oh yeah, and Gal Gadot. Like, one of the things I'm really interested in is everyone's like about Gal Gadot's paycheck, I'm sitting here like, maybe I should look this up because I haven't thought of looking it up. I've just thought about this. I'm like, how much did Patty Jenkins make to make Wonder Woman? Did Patty Jenkins make more money than Zack Snyder for this movie? I guarantee you, no, obviously she didn't. Obviously. Like, let's not even front. That's ridiculous. But I'm just saying, like, no one's having conversations like that.
Yeah. But like I said before, directors don't make as much as their actors.
But exactly my point! I'm just never gonna cry that Scarlett Johansson doesn't have enough hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars.
One thing I'm gonna say before we go is, so some people want to argue about the gender pay gap. And quite frankly, it's a lot more nuanced than sites like the Mary Sue and
Everyday Feminist.
And what's the other one?
I laugh
Tumblr.
because they're
Tumblr.
I laugh because they're a joke.
Yeah,
Get
but
it?
Or the Huffington Post and all these kind of modern liberal.
Huffington Post is kind of like the Washington Post, where they're both extraordinarily hit or miss. A lot of it comes down to the specific author, not the publication.
But the gender pay gap is a lot more nuanced than articles want to admit to, because it's kind of hard to explain certain things. They don't take into account negotiations. They don't take into account hours spent on the job. They don't take into account the danger of the jobs.
Right. A lot of times this has been reduced to the soundbite of, oh, women all over America get paid 73 cents on the dollar that every man makes for doing the exact same work. But, okay, first of all...
That's illegal. That's 100% illegal. That's called gender discrimination. And if that is happening, then obviously that needs to be fucking addressed. But, talking generally about a gender pay gap that...
Okay, well, first of all, just because it's illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I've been legally screwed out of shit 3 of the 4 jobs that I've had. I mean, it's a little ridiculous to be like, oh, well, it's illegal, therefore it doesn't happen. Employers pull shit on their employees all the fucking time. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but to say that it only happens to the women is bullshit.
Exactly, because a lot of these studies don't take into account the amount of hours worked for men and women. A lot of times they don't even take into account the same job. A lot of times, and hear me out, I'm saying a lot of times these studies say men and women generally earn different amounts. Generally earn is significantly different than are paid differently. But also, you can't really take almost any issue and lump it into everyone makes this amount for this thing for this. No issue is that fucking simple. You know,
it is like sometimes with like government jobs or like certain.
But that's still being specific.
Yeah,
you have to be more specific. You can't say this stupid thing and have it apply everywhere. For example, like this, you know, a lot of these rape statistic numbers where it's like 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 women are raped. Period. Or sometimes it's
why
like
are we getting into this stuff?
There's a reason why.
Okay.
Are raped or they're raped by the time that they graduate college. You know, it's usually put into a little sound nugget like that. I've read probably about 20 very different studies on rape. Myself. I've actually read the material. I've learned their methods. I've seen exactly how it's done. For at least 20. And from what I've gathered from all these different studies, the amounts, like the percentage can range anywhere from 0.83, I think. It was less than 1% to 17%. And the mean and median average has been somewhere between 7 to 13%.
That's still really fucking high.
No, of course and obviously anytime it happens, it's wrong. It doesn't matter if it happens less than 1% of the time. That's too much. My point is between less than 1% and 17% is so ridiculous of a gap that you can't even say that means anything.
But then trying to stretch it out to say that it happens 25% of the time is...
Exactly. And even in a lot of the studies I've read, there's a lot of information missing. A lot of times the definition of rape are really terrible. They're not inclusive enough, or they're too inclusive. A lot of times the sample size is either very skewed in terms of who they pick to be in the sample, or the sample size is way too fucking small. A lot of times they have inconsistent methods of gathering data. A lot of times the data comes from a different source that turns out to not be accurate. There's a lot of problems with studies. So you can't just be like, oh, this big, huge, general issue that overlays the entire United States of America can be reduced to this one little soundbite, and that's totally the truth, you guys. That doesn't work for literally any issue. I brought up rape because that's one that I actually have read the studies on. I think I've only read 4 studies on the pay gap versus 20.
Gotcha.
But also to show that it affects other issues.
Yeah, and I think it was good for the Hollywood Reporter to come out with this article, but like at the same time, you need to start putting in numbers, because like when you're refuting, that's one of the interesting things and that people don't want to talk about. Now, granted, yeah, somebody who's poor, how much money they make, I wonder how many people tell you the exact amount they make, because quite frankly, I can tell you how much money I make, and I'm not ashamed to say how much money I make. Whereas somebody who, you know, makes thousands or millions of dollars, they're all secretive about it.
Well, yeah, but also all these studios are going to be secretive about it because they're secretive about most of the things that happen behind the set.
Right.
Unless it's something that they specifically bring up in press conferences. Usually they're not very comfortable with this. So a lot of the stuff that we find out from Hollywood has to be unnamed sources or anonymous letters. That's just kind of the way it has to be.
Yeah, or sometimes leaks, like the Sony leak that happened.
Well, yeah. That's a lot more substantial, though, than a source told me that he makes about 6 figures.
So, what do you think about the Wonder Woman pay gap? Do you agree with our assertions that we got from the Hollywood Reporter, or do you think that there's possibly something more nefarious going on? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for listening.